Hey everybody, it's the library lady with you today, and I'm going to apologize if you hear a little background noise today. My neighbor is doing some sawing and some wood projects, so don't mind that little background noise if you hear that today. Today's What's the Story is a great picture book called Ralph Tells a Story by Abby Hanlon. It was printed in 2012 by Two Lions, and I chose this one because I think if you're a parent or a teacher or both, you might kind of have the same experience with your own children or students where writing can be a tough thing for kids and a real struggle. And sometimes just the physical aspect of writing can be a challenge, in addition to just the sheer fact of what to write and what to start with. And I don't have a story to write, and I don't like writing, and it can really be some meltdowns in your house or in your classroom. And so I love this story. The illustrations are great. She does them as well. And Ralph is a little boy who just feels like he doesn't have a story to tell. And his teacher, who just is, misenthusiastic, like stories are everywhere, kind of gives that message to her kids. And he just doesn't get it and doesn't think that his teacher knows what she's talking about, to be honest. And so kind of tells his story about writing. And then he kind of learns though. So we're going to take a look at this. And then I've got some simple, just fun ways to turn writing into more than just here's a piece of paper, write your story, and some ideas for that. So we'll read a little bit of the book, and like I said, the pictures are great that she does, so it's very kid-friendly and fun, and it says, my teacher always says stories are everywhere. And you can just imagine this fun, whimsical, happy little teacher here, just the kids all enamored with her, except for Ralph here, who doesn't like it. And the kids in my class were always finding them. So there's a bunch of kids each saying different things about, like, the dentist forgot to give me a toothbrush. And he's reading his story. And I ran down the hallway with my underwear on my head. Anything with underwear or bottoms, is always a hit. But every day at writing time, I could not write a story. I thought really hard. I stared at my paper. I stared at the ceiling. And here he is. Just stuck. And you may know some students or kids like this. And so this is where it kind of gets into his, he just doesn't know what to do. I have no story. And so you can tell all of his classmates are just really entranced by their writing and just really enthralled with all that's happening and very happy and in this lovely little world of writing except for him. And so I'll kind of stop there as he goes on, but he learns that just simple everyday events can turn into a story. So for instance, my family and I actually just did some strawberry picking today. And so we loaded the kids up to get out. It was outside, great opportunity to get out there. Side story, go do that if you have a option near you to do that. And a lot of fun. So just writing a story about that, telling what you did. So like a nonfiction version of what you did during that day. One fun thing that you can do with that is if you give your kids little strips of paper, obviously depending on your child's age and writing, you may need to make them bigger, but you can decorate and make it all pretty and fancy. I just grabbed one real quick out of my kitchen, like a glass jar, and it can be their writing jar. And as they encounter things during their day, or they think of an idea, like, what about monsters invading, my bedroom or something as my story idea, you could write that down, or they can write it down and stick it in the jar. And then when you have some time or you want to do a little writing activity, they check their jar. If you have some kind of cool container or box, that will work too. I was just thinking it's kind of fun and neat to do rather than like a notebook. But if you like notebooks too, they could keep a little writer's notebook, like a little diary of ideas. And again, make the jar decorative and pretty, and then they can keep it in a special place. Sometimes just giving your kids different options for writing utensils or tools. Sometimes pencils just aren't great, so mechanical pencils. My kids, we actually have the My First by Tigeranda tri-writes, and they're kind of like a triangular, which I'm not sure you can tell in the video, but just to help with grip. And so we use those a lot. But even fun things like a wacky little pen, colored pencils can be a great thing too. I love Twistables. If you don't know Twistables by Crayola, these are the mini size ones, but they make crayons. So this is the Twistable crayons. And I like them because you don't have to worry about having to sharpen. And then they do make a twistable colored pencil as well, so a little bit of a finer tip. And then, of course, markers can be great, too. I really like dry erase boards. I had one, but it's inside. But, just the whiteboards. Something about that, I think, is appealing to kids because it's not quite as daunting as the writing and then, erasing and adding this part back in. So the dry erase board and the white marker give a little more flexibility in writing. So definitely, if you have a kid who doesn't like erasing and rewriting, whiteboards can just be a fun and different way to record their thoughts. Something pretty kind of like along with the jars has, a notebook. So maybe they have a place to keep their ideas or a place to write their stories. And then again, depending on your child's age, what kind of paper is inside. Along those lines too is just paper, letting them write on different types of paper, design paper, printed paper, lined paper. This is a really cool one put out by Mead called Ready Space, and it's like a transitional notebook. And it's helping get the spacing between words, and so it's kind of cool looking. And I like it as a teacher from the margin standpoint of go and stop, but there's actually little markings for each letter of the word, and so they really learn spacing in there. So that's something different. There's a lot of books out on the market, where you can get some fun pages or stationary print pages, notebooks, so you can look those up. You might have some special writing paper if your child's younger, with just the lines like that. This is fun too, again, with just different paper. You might have lined paper, here's a little pig, or here's a cat, but there's no lines, so they can write. So sometimes just giving them different options on paper and writing utensils can be good too. I really like to do what we call pass the paper or continue the story, or you can come up with some other clever name for it. But basically, each person, wherever you're doing this, whether a classroom or at your house, takes one sentence at a time. So for example, for my family's strawberry picking today, I might start off with the first sentence like, today my family went strawberry picking, period. And then I pass the paper to the next person, we got a big bucket to fill up with strawberries, pass, next person. And that way it's kind of a quick thing. They're not having to sit and think, and they're just adding to the story. And you can go around as many times as you can kind of help and have a dialogue of, well, what happened next? And then what else do you want to include? And, oh, should we put in this part, and kind of help foster that. And that way they're not having to write the whole thing either. So it makes it a little bit easier for kids to do. And then I have shared these before on another one of my videos, but the little flip books, and this is one from the Target bin, and this is one for older kids, but basically it's just a bunch of ideas and story starters. So maybe here, write a poem about your school and a deer that has a hole. So these you just kind of flip, and you can find different things. You can use all three, or you can use part of one. And then if you find some older edition ones, they're a little bit more in depth in terms of things like, write a mystery about a crashed spaceship that won't stay in one spot. And so if they need some ideas, so kind of like the story Jar, where they're thinking of their own ideas, this one already has some ideas and suggestions for them. So you may want to invest in those. They're not a lot of money. And another one thing I would say too is let them feel special about their writing. If your child has a teacher who does kind of the writing process, and so they go through the writing and editing and all that. Not that you may or may want to get into the editing process, maybe just have them write their story, but celebrate them reading it. And so a lot of teachers love to do like a author's chair, and maybe you pick a special day of the week or a time where let's share something that you've written, and you can decorate the chair or have them wear a funny hat, or get some balloons, and everybody sit down and like make a big deal about it. So pop some popcorn, have a little snack, some juices or whatever, and make them feel special and really value that they took time to share their story, because all kids want to be heard. So it's a great opportunity for them to feel like they've been heard. And then I usually don't like to give away endings because that's a spoiler alert, but I will share that Ralph does feel more successful toward the end of the story. So I wasn't embarrassed anymore, and here he is, just glimmering and shining here with his writing, and then it's got a couple more pages there at the end. But it's a great story that kids can connect to. I would encourage you to just find opportunities to write with your child, whether it be traditionally pencil, paper, and even typing too. Let your child type. They spend so much time on devices, but I have found as a librarian and a classroom teacher, they don't know how to type. And so give your child a chance to do some typing practice and let them type some stories too. So hopefully you'll check out Ralph Writes a Story by Abby Hanlon and enjoy some writing with your child. And even writing outside can be fun too, instead of sitting down at a paper. Let them lay down, stretch out, enjoy some fresh air. So have a wonderful day, and don't forget to try Ralph Tells a Story. See you next time on What's a Story?